Right? Okay. Unmuted. Always wanted to do that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start this evening, I would like to acknowledge with thanks that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Subat's people, who have been stewards of these lands for millennia and share these lands as neighbors, moving forward for the betterment of both communities. Tonight, we are dealing with a public hearing on two applications. The public hearing has been called to deal with bylaw amendments to the zoning bylaw number 1055-2021. And as per the requirements of the Local Government Act, the public will have an opportunity to provide input on the proposed amending bylaws, which are numbered 1087-2023 and 1088-2023. For the sake of order, we just need to establish the ground rules for this public hearing, and they are applicable to both bylaws tonight. Subjects of the hearing are as follows. Each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak on each of the bylaws as they are presented. The input should be strictly on the bylaw that is the subject of the public hearing. And if time permits, you may take your turn to speak again after all members have spoken. There will be no, I don't suspect there will be, but there will be no booing or heckling during the proceedings. We have an atmosphere which allows everyone an opportunity to express their views without feeling intimidated. This would allow the public hearing to move smoothly and quickly. Before you speak, if you do, you must state your full name and address. As stated earlier, your input must deal strictly with the contents of the bylaw, and no deviation will be permitted. There will be no debate permitted. Council members, you may ask questions for clarification of the input being provided. Any questions on the process? No booing or heckling. Thank you for listening. CAO, could you please introduce the amending bylaw 1087-2023?
I will indeed. The zoning amendment bylaw 1087-2023 intends to add use to the properties owned or operated by School District 79. The application for the zoning amendment was initiated by the school district. The added zoning use as contained in the amending bylaw is intended to allow childcare facilities in each of the Paulson Elementary School, the Lake Carlton School, and Stanley Gordon School, all of which are designated public use zones. P1, that is. The required public notices under the Local Government Act have been issued for the zoning bylaw amendment, and all statutory requirements have been met. No written comments have been received on the proposed zoning amendment bylaw 1087-2023. The public have had an opportunity to review the amending bylaw and applicable related documents in the meantime.
Thank you very much. And as the CAO has indicated, there have been no written submissions on this amending bylaw. So I will invite verbal input from the public. And again, each speaker, could you please, for the record, state your name and address before beginning the verbal submission. Anyone from the public, opponent or applicant, would you like to state anything?
I would.
Okay.
My name is Erica Belendon, and I am at 594 Castley Road in the Catchin. And I am a parent and also a teacher at Paulson Elementary. And I would like to give my full support to the bylaw amendment. I think as you know, in many communities, but also Lake Cowichan and the wider Cowichan Valley, we're needing more childcare spaces desperately. And I know of a friend in Honeymoon Bay who has her child on the waiting list at the Paulson Center and has been waiting since the fall. And was considering going into Duncan for childcare. It just seems like a win-win for the community if we can make these amendments to provide, you know, immediately childcare at Paulson and in the future at the other two sites.
Thank you very much. Any further comments from the public on this amendment? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Alicia Newman. My address is 1791 Bank Road in Nanaimo, British Columbia. Sorry, I'm out of town.
Welcome to our postal code.
So I've been working with the school district 79 in order to bring the childcare services to Lake Cowichan. The school district did there was a needs assessment done in the area to show that Lake Cowichan was a high need. I could say that that probably exists for the whole province now, and that we've been waiting 6 months to go in and operate the center. And we've been literally just waiting on a simple signature for the zoning bylaw. And it's something that honestly should have taken 10 minutes. And we are now into month 6 on this. So definitely had a learning curve on zoning bylaws from this. So thank you for that. But yeah, we're hopeful that we'll get approval today, and then we'll be able to open, help the school district open the 37 spaces that would be at Paulson Elementary. And then as we have with the town of Chemainus, so it'll be a similar center as that. So we are excited to come into your community and to be able to offer such a needed service, as it's very hard to find often a place for childcare, as it's not often thought of in community planning at all.
Thank you very much, and I understand your frustration, but unfortunately, we follow the legal process. Absolutely. The Local Government Act is very strict when it comes to OCP amendments and bylaw amendments. So I appreciate your frustration. Any further input from the public for a second time? Any further input from the public on a third and final time? Thank you very much. So with the closure of this hearing, we will take no further verbal or written submissions on this amending bylaw, and they cannot be received from the public, to council, or any member of it. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 1087-2023 will be returned to council for further consideration. That is on tonight's council agenda. Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the first public hearing. We will move into the second public hearing. And for the sake of order, I'm not going to repeat everything, but the ground rules that we spoke of earlier, which were established, will still apply. Mr. Fernandez, could you please introduce the next amending bylaw 1088-2023?
The zoning amendment bylaw 1088-2023 intends to amend the designation of lot 21, section 6, plan VIP 5580, which is at 149 Council Lake Road. And the designation changes from business commercial, which is the C4, to general commercial C1. The application for the zoning change was initiated by the property owner. The required public notices under the Local Government Act have also been issued for the zoning bylaw amendment, and all statutory requirements have been met. A written report on this amendment has been provided by staff. Further, 2 written comments from the public have also been received. I think we had an opportunity to look at those. Council.
We do have copies of those. Thank you.
The public have had an opportunity to review the amending bylaw and the applicable related document in the meantime.
That concludes your introduction.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. And now we will invite verbal input from the public on this amending bylaw. Again, each speaker, if you could state your name and address before the verbal submission starts. That way we can record it within the minutes. So is there anyone that wishes to speak to the proposed amendment of 1088? 2023. Is the proponent here, the applicant? Ma'am, would you like to speak to the application?
We just applying to change the zoning from C4 to C1. The reason behind it is that the business designation is not conducive anymore for the use of that property. My office is not in motion anymore, so we need the best use of the property is to change the.
And just for the record, can you state your name and address, please?
Sorry, my name is Muthu Verna. My address is in 04 650 Dawson Road in Duncan.
Thank you very much. Any further public input on this amending bylaw? Calling for further input for a second time. For a third and final time, any further input? So the proposed zoning bylaw 1088-2023 will be returned to council for further consideration. For the close of this hearing, we will receive no further verbal or written presentations from the public. It cannot be received by council or any member of council. So with that, I will declare the public hearing is adjourned on the amending land use bylaws, which will be in the regular agenda this evening. We'll take a 2-minute recess. While we get going on the other. I'll do this again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular council meeting to order for Tuesday, March 28th, 2023 at 6:13. It's to be held and transmitted electronically via the council chambers, which are temporarily located at King George Street in Lake Cowichan, BC, and broadcast on our YouTube channel. Again, I'd like to acknowledge our gathering on the traditional unceded territory of the Subats people, with thanks for their stewardship of these lands for the land. Call to order. Any introduction of late items? Councillor Bomaka.
Absentee for Councillor Frisbee.
So looking for a leave of absence for Councillor Frisbee. Can we put that under business arising and unfinished business?
Or is that where you want it?
This-
Or shall we put it under new business? New business, A. Leave of absence. Anyone else? New business B. Proposed budget meeting for April the 4th at 3 p.m. Any other amendments?
Just that we may have auditors at that time.
Okay, did you want to change the time or
Just wait at 4:30.
4:30? Let's amend that to 4:30 start.
Council.
Nothing on your end, Joseph, for additions? Looking for approval of the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Bomaka, seconded by Councillor Austin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Thank you. Then we have adoption of the regular meeting of council held February 28th, 2023. Any errors or omissions in that? Moved by Councillor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Austin. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. We have delegations and representations. We have one tonight. We'll let them finish setting up. And I'd like to introduce Miss Rosalie Sowry and Ryan Watson.
I'm
Megan.
Sandra Thompson here.
Sandra
Ryan, yeah.
But it says Ryan Watson.
I know, it does.
My apologies, Sandra.
Yeah, put his name down and then didn't show up, so.
From Social Planning Council, and it's just a presentation on the region works and some upcoming projects. Welcome. We have 10 minutes. If you need more, we will definitely have a look and see if council is
Right, to the 10.
very good.
All right, great. I'm just gonna, I hope, so welcome, or hello, thank you for having me. I don't need to welcome you. This is your home.
Appreciate it.
So I'm here tonight from Social Planning Cowichan with my colleague Sandra Thompson. We've been working on your poverty reduction strategy, as you well know. But we're here today to give you kind of a more fulsome overview of what Social Planning Cowichan does for the region as a whole and in the parts. And then also answer any questions that you may have about that. So what is social planning? Often people think we do maybe wedding planning or birthdays or that kind of thing. So we have a very short video of John Horn, who was the social planner for the city of Nanaimo for quite a few years before he came to Cowichan and was the executive director of the Cowichan Housing Association. But he gives a really nice short synopsis of what social planning is. So I'll play that for you.
That make a community gel together. So what are the relationships between the people in the community? What is the relationships between the different economic stratums in the community and the different social groups or the different ethnic groups? So social planning looks at all those aspects of the human relations within a community and looks at how do we support a vibrant, healthy, engaged community to emerge from that.
So looking at how everyone is functioning in community and what works.
But make a community.
There we go. And so next we have Candace Pillsbury, who was our founding chair of Social Planning Cowichan, just to give you a bit of a brief history of how we started.
Being part of Social Planning Cowichan, it's been changing. The year was 2004. That after a community process of 2 years of developing the organization, it was a search for, and I responded to that call and chaired the organization for 10 years. And during that time, so much work was completed that was absolutely instrumental to moving forward in the community on issues like the housing, childcare, cultural connections, status of the community report, which was the first report that this community received way back when. And they're still involved in working on that. Vision 2020 was accepted from Community Futures. So that is part of what work social planning social planning Cowichan continues to do. The NAG Games passed on the vision for the cultural connections work. So I'm very proud of this organization. It's done tremendous work for this community and continues to do.
So I like to use the word gifted rather than voluntold, but often social planning, Cowichan will be kind of gifted work that has happened in some way, shape, or form. The NAG Games, North American Indigenous Games, is a great example of that, where amazing things happened through that they wanted to carry the momentum forward, and social planning Cowichan kind of housed that. Another example is through the Cowichan Housing Association. Way back, the Cowichan Valley Regional District said, we need an organization to kind of take on the housing crisis that we were foreseeing way back in the 90s and early 2000s. And so social planning led that with others in the community as well. And then eventually it moved on to its own organization, which we now have the Cowichan Housing Association, which is also a regional function of the CVRD. So that's kind of how we've, the kind of work that we've done is really started projects, kind of moved them forward, and then looking at other gaps and moving ahead in that way. We did a similar thing with childcare as well back in the day. So just getting on into, yeah, there we go. Some of our featured 2022 projects. As you know, we are working on poverty reduction. We worked on the town's strategy back in 2020, right when the pandemic hit. And we developed that into 2021. Council here received and approved the strategy. And we also did something very similar with the town of Ladysmith, working with Staminas as well. So it's called the Moving On Up Cowichan Lake Poverty Reduction Project, and Ladysmith and Staminas. It's called the Community Together to End Poverty, Quinetzaquam, which means as one in Hope. And I'll just play through some of the actions that we've been doing. So what we did is helped to develop a strategy with each respective town. And then from that, we were able to apply for Stream 2 funds. So all of it was funded by the Union of BC Municipalities Poverty Reduction Planning and Action Grants. Stream 1 is to develop your strategy. Stream 2 funds are to take some of those actions and move them forward. So here you see the free store, which was a huge success in the town in January. We'll be doing another one on April 15th. I know many of you are at AVICC, sorry about that. But hopefully the community will come out and support. We saw so many great donations and people utilizing the free options and the free lunch that we had. And in Ladysmith here, we had a couple of film nights. So we focused on poverty in general, as well as food equity. So we hosted 2 different themes, which we saw within the strategy. Very similar themes that we saw here in Lake Cowichan as well. So again, just really trying to pick out based on the amount of funds that you're allowed to ask for with those grants, and picking out some of those most impactful actions that we can do within the means that are available. Another big part of our work is cultural connections. So as you heard earlier, back in 2009, this legacy from the NAG Games, the North American Indigenous Games, we saw communities working together to welcome people from all North America for the games, and a lot of training, cultural work went into getting people prepared for the ceremonies and the celebrations that would take place during those games. And so we've really taken that on and moved it through into some more reconciliation work, as the term we know now, working with our Cowichan elders who are always leading the work. So they do the Journey of Our Generation workshops, which was formerly the village workshops. And then that evolved into, people would take the workshop and want to do more. So we turned it into Cowichan 101, where you would get to go to different areas of the region and learn more about the lands, learn more about the culture, based on the nations that lived there. So play a video which explains it much better than I can. Kidding.
We had formed a committee called the Walk of the Nations Festival, and we needed a home. Basically, the Walk of the Nations existed for one time during the North American Indigenous Games, but there was that sort of desire and need in the community to continue on that cultural connection work. So social planning became our home. They accepted us, they welcomed us. And from that grew a number of programs, a number of workshops, and I think it provided a real service that was needed in the community. There was a gap there. And so rather than it being a local government or a business or a corporation or somebody that may not necessarily be the right person to lead that charge, social planning became the facilitator, the advocate, and became the home for that type of cultural connection.
Reconciliation is it's still a very difficult word for me. Like when a rattler says it's pretty bored, it's pretty bored. Even when I first started coming out, I had to look it up on dictionary. What does it mean? So I got to understand, yeah, I need to reconcile with myself.
First, that thing that comes to mind is working together.
To ask for workshops and presentations about reconciliation. I think we have to be vigilant and both these. It's not the answer by one voice coming out of me or anybody else. There's not that answer. It's a whole clump of each one of us coming together and making that work.
I don't want to wish for something that we no longer exists. I want to imagine something that we can create. And I don't know what the word is for that, but it's not decolonization. We can't. We're all colonized. We can't decolonize. We can unwind some things. We can imagine something. We can use that wisdom to imagine something. I mean,
Today we won't get those answers. Maybe 20 years we might. At least we're bringing it up.
So that speaks a little bit more to that. And then out of what you saw there, the elders really recognize that they're getting on as well, and they want to see some legacy projects moving that work forward. And so most recently we have done what's called Sait, which means truth in Hulkaminam. And it's really a multimedia exhibit that happened at the Cowichan Community Center in the art gallery over the fall of last year. And really you just walk through, I'll show, actually I'm talking, I'll play the pictures here. So it really was kind of an immersive experience. You walk through the gallery, you would, start at the fire and see the stars above you and just see, it kind of moves you through colonization after displaying what the village kind of looked like beforehand. And so they wanted to really take those workshops and make it into more of an exhibit that people could experience and could travel around with it. The second part was Pay, which is cedar in Hulkaminam. And this part of the cedar project, and really what that was looking like is the elders wanted to plant 3,000 cedar trees as part of their culture in honor of the children who didn't return home from residential schools. But with climate change, that is challenging because cedar doesn't plant its roots very deep, and so that's going to be a hard truth for the future. So we're really looking at different ways that we can, as an organization, reach out to people to preserve what cedar is still here. And how we can restore ecosystems to make sure that we have cedar long-term for future generations to be able to harvest as well. So we had Cedar Forum actually here in Lake Cowichan, just at the cultural or the communities. Education Center, thank you. Which is a beautiful space. I'd never been up there before. Actually, my car barely got up because one time it snowed. Luckily we got up and everyone had a wonderful time just sharing their experience with preserving and restoring cedar and how we can move that legacy project forward. So it was really an inspiring few days actually. Last photo there. So just to kind of summarize, we also have lots of things on the horizon As we look into the future, we really want to take the Cultural Connections team has actually created their own society as of 2020, but of course with the pandemic, things have been delayed in moving that forward. So they will be their own organization outside of social planning over the next 3 years. There's a plan for that, for their own independence. And then also moving the workshops, again, offering those in person now that we can. We have 2 coming up, one on April 6th in Duncan, one in Cobble Hill on May 6th. May 5th. And then we also want to do that deeper dive couch in 101, have those tours happening in the region as well. And you may have noticed one of the photos was at the Somina Big House. That was Cushintle that happened before the 2018 election, where we wanted to kind of regain that commitment from elected officials. We saw the premier attend. And so we are really looking forward to doing that again, hopefully this fall. So that's everything is funding dependent with Social Planning Cowichan as a nonprofit. We are a function of the regional district, but that's $50,000 a year, which basically keeps the light on in our office and pays for part-time staffing, our executive director. Everything else is grant led. So some of our core work, as you'll notice here, is our living wage calculation. We do that every year. The 2020 calculation was $23.53 per hour for someone to live comfortably and have their basic needs met, and that's based on a family of 4 with 2 full-time working parents. We do community snapshots updated with the census data every 4 years, and also annually with what information is we can update. We're looking at doing some more neighborhood climate change resiliency adaptation projects as well. We've done that in the past, and that's always on our radar to look for funding to continue on. And then obviously our poverty reduction actions that both counts. So yeah, lots of things in the horizon. Another part I should mention is we were born out of the Visions 2020 work, which happened in the 90s and early 2000s. We've been looking at that again, and we'll be back to talk about visioning in the future, funding dependent as well, and doing some community outreach around that to envision what 2050 should look like. So that's it. Heads up, guys. Thank you very much.
So I'll turn to my fellow councilors. Any questions or comments?
I just want to thank Rosalie. It's a great committee to be on, and you've been doing a lot of good work. I remember Visions 2020. That was a long time ago when they went to that. So thank you very much for all the work that you do, and for Sandra as well.
Anyone else? I think it'll be interesting to see what the 2023 living wage will bring forward. Given the impacts we're under currently with inflation and the cost of living going up considerably. That would be something that I would be interested in moving forward, implementing that into the council remuneration bylaw, for instance, where council isn't even afforded a living wage for the work that they do. No, that was in jest, but it'll be interesting.
Okay. Partly.
When you count the hours, it's
I saw my CFO and CAO just cringing. But it'll be interesting to see what those numbers are
Yeah.
moving forward. It'll be significantly higher than number 20 numbers, I'm sure. One of the things that you did show was the neighbor to neighbor pop-up free store that was implemented in the 50+ center, which was very well received in our community, and I'm hoping that there will be another one. Is there any update on that?
yeah, April 15th, we have a firm date, so that'll be taking place. I'll send the poster as soon as it's confirmed. We're just waiting to hear on the language, and then that'll be sent out.
And I know it's not just yourself, there was a lot of volunteers
Yes.
involved in that, so I want to have a great big shout out to everybody involved in that.
Yeah,
The community bought in, and it was very well received.
it was. We had to stop taking donations because we were overwhelmed. And then the seniors at the senior center and Al and Janine were just fantastic. They just went to work.
Very well received.
Yeah.
I raise my hand.
Thank you very much.
Play co, as we say in.
Right.
I'll just give you a moment to.
Sorry, I'll.
Assemble. From
We're
our
gonna go
smart
to the
board.
group hub.
You're the IT as well?
Yeah, that's right. Nonprofits, you know?
Just a different half.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and safe trip home, watch your health.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Have a look at those 5 planets that are on the western
Yeah.
horizon.
Tonight, yeah. Here too.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
You need the lights back on or?
The lights on.
Ready for the close. Just sticking there off. Great organization that does great work with limited resources, for sure. So moving on, fellow councilors, next up is correspondence. This is an action item from the Union of BC Municipalities. It's regarding the inventory of provincial lands for consideration for affordable housing. Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, if you leave it with staff, we'll come back with the report for the next meeting.
That's a great idea. Can I have someone move that to staff? Moved for staff report from Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Bomaka. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There are no other information items, so we'll move down to reports. First one is Committee of the Whole. Councillor Austin was the chair of that one. Okay.
Thank you. I was gonna say your worship and you told me not to say that.
There's only one person you should worship, it's not me.
I think Ross like that. Anyway, thank you. I'd like to move the minutes of the committee. If I get it up here so I can see it. The Committee of the Whole from Tuesday, March 14, with the following recommendations. That the committee recommend approval of the Lake Cowichan Fire Department's incident report in the amount of $9,842.91 for January. That was carried. The committee recommended the authorization of change orders to the municipal hall contract be returned to council, but that was defeated. The committee recommended that the required remedial action for the property at 63 Cowichan Lake Road be undertaken using the following process. An on-site inspection of the property by the building and fire department, and if deemed appropriate by the RCMP. Staff reports with recommendations to follow, with the owner being provided an opportunity to undertake such remediation as is required. Should the owner fail to comply with the remedial requirements, council can declare the property as a nuisance and provide the owner an opportunity to respond by requesting that council reconsider the remedial action requirements. And failing a satisfactory response, the town may take action in accordance with section 17 of the community charter and undertake any or all of the actions required by the remedial action requirement without further notice to and at the expense of the owner. The fourth one was that the committee recommend approval of the request by the BC Labour Heritage Centre for the placement of the Darshan Singh Sangha Memorial Plaque to be located at the Katsa Museum. And the last one, that the committee recommend that Councillor Austin be authorized to attend the community engagement series on Wednesday, March 15th in Duncan.
And you're moving those minutes?
I'm moving those minutes.
Do I have a second for that? Councillor Sandu, any discussion on those minutes? Call the question, all those in favor? Oh, sorry. you have-
Well, yeah, we'll do that first.
Did you have something on the minute?
Well, I was just gonna say, did you want me to report on that? What I went to, the poverty reduction?
Could you do that in a later verbal report?
We can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's been moved and seconded on the whole minutes, all in favor? Opposed to Finney, that motion carries. Next report we'll look for is Cowichan Lake Recreation. Councillor Sandu, anything to report there?
Yes, I attended a Cowichan Lake Recreation meeting on March 23rd. There was an election for vice chair and Rod Peters was elected. We had a delegation from the Lake Cowichan Kraken hockey team by owner Harv Baines, addressing issues with the player change rooms. We're having a special commission meeting on April 27th to receive and discuss staff report on the ventilation ventilation issues.
Conclude your report.
It does.
That's just for information, ladies and gentlemen. I should say ladies. Vancouver Island Regional Library is next. Anything there, Councillor Austin?
Yes, we had a hybrid meeting on March 25th at 9:30. It was quite a long 4-hour meeting. They used the OWL like we're using here in the live sessions in the North Nanaimo Library and had the same problems with visuals and hearing as we do. So we are not exclusive in that. It was a 4-hour meeting with several rich discussions on the draft strategy plan report. And once again, literacy challenges were discussed. Also much discussion on the new Masset Library and rising costs from 1 million to 4.2. They have added a much needed, or that they felt was needed, a meeting room in the plans, but some trustees felt that wasn't necessary. A modular build was suggested as well. As this is on an island, things have to be shipped there and everything just keeps going up and up and up. So the modular build might be a better plan. One trustee wanted the word grandfather removed from all our documents, as apparently it relates back to the slave times. I don't know, do you realize that? Perhaps another legal term would fit better in all our documents, and I'm sure we can look into that. I think if someone's grandfather was allowed to vote and was not a slave, they were allowed to vote, and I think that's where the word grandfather came from. Trying to remember what the chap said on that. Our next hybrid meeting will be on June 3rd at 9:30.
Thank you very much. Thanks for attending that. I'm going to stay with you on the Advisory Planning Commission. Anything there?
Yes, we had an in-person meeting on March 23rd. Several items on the agenda. I won't go into everything. We had some really good discussion, long discussions. The OCP update part 2, definitions of various housing types was brought in. Info on rezoning of 149 Cowichan Lake Road, local government climate action plan workshop that James attended on our behalf, and the Cowichan connectivity strategy presentation that James attended on our behalf. Regarding connectivity, it is possible that we could go it alone in this community with an initial cost of 500 per household, followed by a monthly fee. Robert would like to be a delegation to explain at our next meeting as he attends those meetings. And that's to do with fiber optics and like a 5G higher internet access. So we don't have it yet.
Okay.
And that, our next meeting is Thursday, April 27th at 4:30 p.m. And I believe the mayor goes to you have some information through the connectivity through the CBRD.
Yes, and I'll report that under my Cowichan Valley Regional District report. Appreciate that segue into that. Next up is the Cowichan Lake Community Forest Cooperative. The Forest Co-op is currently in the infant stages of implementing their 5-year cut plan moving forward for the next 5 years, with input from Kalayat, which is the forestry organization of both Cowichan Lake Community Forest Co-op and the Dididat or Pachidat, First Nation. That is the company of the Cowichan Lake Community Forest Cooperative. The funds from harvesting are split 50-50 between the two communities and put forward for community projects as they come for debate and deliberation. There is some discussion moving forward on what some of those programs may be in the future, taking into account that CRA is cracking down on societies on their income tax response, and we have been apprised of perhaps significant monetary considerations to pay to CRA through our funds that we have received for our harvesting. So moving forward, we'll have the 5-year cut plan move forward for public consultation. This is a tripartite partnership, actually the first in the province between First Nation, community forest, and BC timber sales. So all three will come together with that 5-year sustainable forestry plan for public input and perusal. With that, That's my verbal report. And now. CBRD, the Cowichan Valley Regional District Board. The budget has been finalized and adopted, including the regional recreation and solid waste are the main increases in the town of Lake Cowichan's requisition contribution. On the average, home assessed at $641,662, which is what they consider the average household in Lake Cowichan to be valued at. The total CBRD portion of our functions is estimated at $858.14. I will be posting a schedule that shows functions that we do contribute to and participate in on my personal Facebook page, and then we'll share those around if you wish, showing the impact of the CBRD budget on every function that we do contribute to. Significant increases again in regional recreation, which was brought forward in a referendum. And that has been a significant impact in that. The code of conduct for the CBRD is under review, and they have considered an option of an ethics commissioner should the need arise in the be breached. We'll be looking at ours later on, but I don't believe that we are a sizable enough organization to worry about an ethics commissioner. But should that happen, we could be utilizing a consultant for any breaches that might occur, that will not occur. Governance options for regional recreation are the next step, and they're being reviewed and will come forward in an upcoming meeting, considering the standing committees within, or commissions within the Cowichan Lake Recreation Facility of partially elected officials and partially public officials, as opposed to the Cowichan Commission, which is all elected officials. So they're looking at what sort of governance model which will move forward. There has been a threshold set for 6% contribution from any municipality would have representation on that commission. Regional connectivity study results and possible upgrades were presented. With more information on next steps to follow. The premise of that was to indicate which areas within Lake Cowichan were not served by a minimum amount of uploads and downloads. It was not to accommodate fiber to be placed into every home, but show options on what the costing of that might be. There are other communities in Alberta that have taken on the provision of fiber optic to their community, and the costing of that will be reviewed within any future discussions. Cowichan housing update was provided by a delegation on the implementation of their count in time, which is coming up in April. That will give us some concrete numbers moving forward and some anecdotal results to move forward with providing impacts on our community and how we can accommodate these services that are lacking for the people that really do need. The May 24th meetings for the regional district have been canceled, and that's due to a conflict with the FCM conference. I'll stop there for a minute. Take the class for that. It's been a hectic process moving through the budget. As new directors are coming up to speed and trying to get not only their feet wet, but jump into the fire with the budget process. Looking forward to moving on with that. And that concludes my verbal report. Wish I was paid by the word. You're more than welcome to watch those on YouTube. They can be quite entertaining at times. Community Outreach Committee, Councilor Austin.
Thank you. Community Outreach Team in person Thursday, March 16th. Those present were Sergeant Watson, Corporal Savinkoff from the RCMP, Laurel Crawford from Community Integration Specialist, Hazard Community Integration Specialist, Carolyn Yablonsky, Public Health Nurse, Cameron Brown, Community Liaison, and Lori from Community Services. We have really good meetings, lots of interest of different things that are happening in the community. Some items of discussion were delicate, so I'll just say that we talked about various items such as transient unhoused from other communities causing issues at Gordon Bay at present, and everyone is gearing up for the summer tourist season and the 2 events at Lake Town Ranch that will happen this year. Island Health suggests another COVID booster for those with compromised health issues, young children and those over 80. No info on a clinic here yet, but I believe the pharmacies will be doing them. Community services are continually holding youth programs 2 days per week. The refresh store 2 days per week, community luncheon 2 days per week. There appears to be 4 unhoused folks at present in the Cowichan Lake area that Cameron is aware of. It is evident that we always need more support services here, especially in the spring, summer, and we are all lobbying for them. Although there are many barriers to get help for the marginalized if they do not have access to a phone, internet, or computer 24/7 when they might need it, which could be in the middle of the night. Programs for spring break are ongoing at Cowichan Lake Recreation, and discounts on programs for youth are always available for those with financial constraints. And our next meeting will be Thursday, April 20th at 9 a.m.
Great. Did you want to piggyback on the other one that we did attend on our behalf? as
Yes,
well?
this was the Poverty Reduction Action Forum. Marcia Turner was the facilitator. She was originally from Hazelton. It was a pretty heavy meeting. Shelley Cook, Executive Director of Cowichan Housing, was there. Mayor Staples, City of Duncan, Mayor Douglas, Municipality of North Cowichan. Discussions were held at each table with a cross-section of folks from different areas and those with lived experience. We discussed the literature and data already available, so no need to try and reinvent the wheel with another study. Because that's what we tend to do sometimes. The consensus was to come up with goals and actions regarding homelessness, mental health issues, stigma, communication, and education, as well to formulate priorities for collaboration and leadership to address the current homeless crisis. If we all work together and along with the federal provincial governments, we will be successful. Final thoughts. Collaboration is the key, so we all have to lobby for the funding for the noted actions. A community action team, it's called CAT, needs to expand and also needs sufficient resources to follow. There's always a need to cut some red tape, reestablish a housing coalition and adopt a collective impact program. And we, as the town of Lake Cowichan, need to support the application for funding for Duncan North Cowichan when it comes to us. Most important part for me was youth aging out of care. We had a lovely young man at our table that I wanted to take home with me. And they're just put out on the street with nowhere to go and no funds at age 18. And they really can't sign anything or do anything for themselves until they're 19. So that doesn't make sense. So this is wrong. The youth are our future, and we need to make sure they have a decent start as they become adults. It was suggested to raise the aging out age to 25 from 18, which they do in some cases. And I have asked this young man if he would like to come and speak to the social justice class at the high school, if Mr. Batty would allow it, because he had some really great insights and some things to say that I think the kids would really love to hear. So I'm keeping in touch with him.
Great.
I had to have a nap when I came home, though. It was a heavy meeting.
It's
Very heavy.
Thank you for attending on our behalf. Our Cowichan, Council Sandra.
We have a May date, but to be determined.
Cowichan Watershed Board.
We held our meeting yesterday by Zoom. We had a presentation on the Cowichan District Hospital replacement project, specifically discussing the wetland and water impacts. We approved the recommendation from the Cowichan Watershed Society to offer Jill Thompson a contract for interim executive director until a suitable applicant is hired. The co-chairs of the Cowichan Watershed Board will be presenting our business plan to the CBRD board on April 26th and to Cowichan Tribes on April 17th. We have a tentative date for the annual Lower River cleanup, which is dated August 27th, 2023. The lake storage, so there was a bit of discussion on the water. The lake storage is currently sitting just at over half at 56%, which is not as low as 219, but still very low. Now, what we need is a good amount of rain to top it up. The snowpack at Heather Mountain is also below average, although snow continues to accumulate to mid-May on an average year. River flows are currently at 25 CMS, which is bang on for the e-flows this time of year. The Weir is scheduled to go on control April 1st. So the discussion with Paper Excellence, DFO, Cowichan Tribes, and MOF is to reduce it to 20 CMS in order to build up the water if we have a dry spring and summer, so that there'd be more water pulled back in the lake. So that discussion is going forward as we speak, and our next meeting is April 27th, and we had the Cowichan Watershed Society had our AGM 2 weeks ago, and I was nominated and re-elected as co-chair along with Tim, and Dr. Shannon Waters is the secretary, and David Slade is the treasurer.
Just to be clear, it's not this Tim.
No.
It's
Can't
another.
say his last name, so pronounce. I'll say Kachaks.
Okay, just say the case.
Tim K.
Thank you very much. That concludes.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions to Councillor Sandu on that? Thank you very much for keeping us apprised on that. So we will move to staff reports. Mr. Fernandez, the first one on the development permit number 9-537. Ideal, sir.
The owner of Sparrow Lot 9, District Lot 13, which is the plan BIS 5120, which is in Point Ideal, is intending to build a home on this particular lot. But because it's in a stream side protection enhancement area, sphere, it requires a development permit. And as you can see, staff was recommending that permit be issued under the following 2 conditions, which is outlined in the last paragraph of the report.
Okay, for your consideration, councillors, I will read those conditions. No additional construction of any buildings, structures, or hard surfaces within the SPIA delineated by a qualified environmental professional. And prior to the issuance of a building permit, the satisfactory completion of mitigation plantings within the SPIA in accordance with a plan prepared by a qualified environmental professional. And what is your pleasure? Moved by Councillor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Austin. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Thank you. Next one is the rezoning, proposed rezoning for 149 Cowichan Lake Road. Mr. Fernandez?
Yes, we had taken a look at the rezoning application, that's by staff, that is. And we've come up with 4 options, and you may pick any one of those 4 options. I don't think those 4 options are necessarily the ones that are being considered by the applicant. In the details that I found out, so it's really up to you. When the bylaw comes up, for third reading, consider which option.
Yeah. So everybody had a chance to read that staff report, and if I may, through you, was this considered at the APC as well?
Yes.
Not this particular reform,
Okay, but the property itself?
the property.
Thank you very much. So now we will move into bylaws. First one is the town of Lake Cowichan subdivision works and services bylaw 1082-2022. Moved by Councillor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Austin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That bylaw carries. The Town of Lake Cowichan Council Remuneration and Expense Bylaw, number 1084-2022, may be reconsidered and adopted. Did you need to do?
No, I'd like to refer this to our April council meeting if I could.
Okay, move referral to April. This is non-debatable, so on the propriety of referral, any discussion? Yes, Councilor.
My reason is just, this affects all council members, and I just feel with Councillor Frisbee away, that this final reading could be held off until our April regular meeting.
Okay. Anyone else on the propriety of referral? So the motion has been referred to the April council meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Omaka is opposed. That motion carries. We'll move to the April council meeting. Next is the Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment bylaw 1087-2022. Maybe read a third time, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, this is the bylaw dealing with the application of the school district for placing childcare facilities at three schools. And at the present time, it's at Folsom, but there's a possibility that it could be at the other two schools. So it's here for a third reading.
Moved by Councillor Sandu, second by Councillor Omaka. Any discussion? So just for clarification, I know there was daycare allowed there previously, but only in school age children. This is to accommodate preschool children in that facility as well, which is much needed in our town. So thank you for the applicant. For the consideration by my fellow councillors, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries unanimously. Look forward to your operation there, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is the.
That's just
Their reading, so
one more. Sorry about that.
I may have kept you in suspense.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Don't text yet.
30 seconds.
Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment bylaw number 1087-2022 may be reconsidered and adopted. Moved by Councillor Austin, seconded by Councillor Sandu. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Now I can say it was endorsed unanimously. Good luck, man. Next is the Town of Lake Cowichan zoning amendment bylaw 1088-2023. As per your staff report, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, there's nothing more to add other than you have a choice of giving it third reading based on the application, or you can give it third reading with the amendment outlined here, or you can just avoid giving it third reading and give consideration.
Okay, I will turn to my fellow councilors, see if anyone wants to move third reading. Give you one more chance. Anyone wish to move third reading? Move on, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, that
Concludes the bylaws.
Yeah.
So let's move to new business. Leave of absence for tonight's meeting for Councillor Frisbee. Moved by Councillor Omaka, seconded by Councillor Sandu. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Also, under B, setting up the next budget meeting, that'll be April 4th. First Tuesday in April at 4:30 p.m. at these premises for the next budget cycle. That's just for your information and for your calendar. Yeah. So moving forward, let's go to the mayor's report. I have implemented a quarterly mayor's report, so this is the first one for 2023. I'll be reporting quarterly moving forward. Council is currently reviewing and updating our strategic plan, checking off the objectives completed from the original plan, and inputting new ideas for possible improvements that we heard were desired throughout the past campaign. As we move along with the strategic plan, we are also aware of emerging issues that may occur and may need to be dealt with as well. We're working through the budget process currently, and with the recent provincial funding announcement, it has allowed us to look at long-needed infrastructure projects that have been delayed due to lack of funds. Council members have been looking carefully, and staff, at how these decisions will impact residents, considering the financial impacts of the regional recreational referendum on our CBRD contributions, and the cumulative effect of inflation, supply chain issues, and project delays, remembering that we, as council, are taxpayers as well. Once we have finalized the budgets, the impacts of our discussions and the already passed CBRD budget will be shared for information. We wish to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of countless volunteers in our community, working tirelessly to better our communities. Without their efforts, we would not be able to accomplish all the things that are currently available to us. Many organizations suffered losses of volunteers during the pandemic, including the Lake Day Society. And hopefully, as the restrictions on gatherings have eased, this important group can reconvene to bring these celebrations back for all to enjoy. If mayor and council can be of any assistance in accommodating an initial meeting, we would be happy to do so. We also acknowledge gaps in services in our area and will continue to lobby senior levels of government to fill those needs. I personally wish to thank my fellow council colleagues for their hard work and support as we try to make Lake Cowichan a better place to live, work, and play. Also, thanks to our staff and employees who continue to support the decisions that mayor and council bring forward. Signed, Tim McGonigal, Mayor of Lake Cowichan. That concludes the mayor's report. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. Question period. So for those watching online today, if you have questions on items on the agenda of tonight's council meeting, please email to general@lakecowichan.ca and we will try to accommodate an answer as soon as possible. We will not be taking phone calls. We will be only taking questions email moving forward. So again, for those watching online now or at a later time, if you have questions on tonight's agenda, email your questions to general@lakecowichan.ca. Also, if you're in person, and I see one person is left in person. If you do have questions only, not statements, maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, again, on items on tonight's agenda. I will turn to our lone public participant and ask, do you have any questions, sir?
I have no questions.
Thank you very much.
You should have made something up.
And with that, I'm turning to our CAO for our in-camera session, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, section 92 of the community charter requires that before meeting or part of the meeting is to be closed to the public, council must state by resolution why the meeting is to be closed. The basis on which the meeting is to be closed falls under the following section of the community charter. Section 91E, acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land and improvement. Section 91F, law enforcement, and section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of the municipal code that are at their preliminary stage.
Okay, I need a motion to go in camera on those counts. Moved by Councillor Sandu, seconded by Councillor Bomaka. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? take a short recess while we get ready for our in-camera session.